You're doing it.
Okay, so preparing to make your edge transitions when you're on a moving brake. Bring in your ASAP for your belay. Most important thing or critical component about negotiating this edge when you're running over a rail like this is to ensure that none of your equipment is going to side load and none of it's going to get tensioned or pressurized on the high side of your edge probe, right? So we're pre-rigging, we're looking at distances, and we're pre-connecting and pre-rigging, so all that stuff is on the outside of those connection points. If you were to descend off over this, slip with your footing or anything else and side loads at any of these pieces of hardware, that can cause critical failures to these pieces of equipment. So make sure you're just on the far side of that, okay? When you rig into it, take the time to think about how you're going to get oriented based on which side you're climbing in from and how you're swinging your legs. So I can already, because of how I'm transitioning out here, I'm going to swing around the ropes this way. This is going to be my main line, which is going to be my descending line, and my ascending line. This is going to be my safety line or my belay line. So I'm going to pick this guy up. This is what I'm going to rig into my clutch. I'm going to take my clutch up, open this guy up, and I'm going to measure my distance where I want this to load. So I'm going to come just outside of the rail, and I'm going to grab that as my footprint, okay? And I don't want a lot of slack in here. I don't want to get out here, be holding onto the rail, and start to lean back, right, and almost get into a too low of a controlled body position before this loads. I want it loaded quickly. So I want to pull tension on that, make sure all the slack's out of it, get that benchmark right there, bring that up. You remember, use your pictograms so that you know exactly how you're rigging. Drop in the anchor component, come around the pulley wheel, drop the line in, close the device. Now, clutches move with ease, much more so than IDs and the other components. So go over to your back and always put this into a locked form. So you got your release, your anti-panic, your stop, and your standby. I'm going to go all the way into stop mode while I'm transitioning this edge. And that allows me to have this in a fully safety position with my fully safety ASAP and not have to worry about putting my hands on that thing. Everybody good? Okay, so I'm all rigged up. Double check that my line's going to be about out where I need it to be. And I'm going to start easing over this rail. I want to make sure that I'm double checking this line as I'm coming across, because I want to make sure this isn't going to side load. And when I get up to this edge, if I'm looking at this and I'm like, that's rigged a little bit tight, come out of your stop, place some rope through this, and get that to progress out a little bit further. And then put it back into your lock mode. Always make sure that you've done your full safety checks before you get into your operation, and then double check your lines before you change anything. So if things are rigged in the wrong places, you want to make sure that you're reconnecting to the objects you need to reconnect to so that everything's running clean, straight, and neat, okay? And then you're going to ease back in and you're going to load your system, okay? Remember, we're not worried about speed, we're worried about control. So when you're transitioning edges, instead of feeling like you have to make fast steps or do any of those other Cirque du Soleil type acrobatic moves, I want you guys to work on single leg loading. So as I get ready to descend, I come out of my stop. I'm running on my right hand side. This is my hand brake, this is my hand travel. If you're using your integrated swivels, you can run left side if you like, and you run left hip and left hand travel. Do whatever is your dominant, more comfortable body position and hand position. I'm not going to choke the rope. If you're choking the rope, you're not trusting the device and you're not using the friction control that's in the device properly. So trust the device, trust your friction control. This should be just kind of a nice, almost like a perfect sign, and it's just about positioning. It's not about gripping this dude, okay? So nice, easy control, and I'm going to start easing back into the system. Now, when you guys get to this point, I want you guys to practice one-legged stances. So before you get too low, neutral up 1 foot, meaning you're going to kind of, if I'm going to rest on my left foot, I want to orient it towards center mass to right shoulder, okay? I don't want to put a little bit of an athletic bend in that knee, and I want to practice loading just that leg. If I see that, I'm practicing loading just that leg and getting my balance in. All right, I can feel that balance. I can do some knee movements there. Then I'm doing the exact same thing with the right foot. I'm going to load that right foot, counterbalance and lean a little bit to the right. I'm going to practice moving that foot. Everybody following this? So now when I'm making these edge transitions, I want you to look at how much easier this is as soon as I get a little 1 foot application like that. I get to the position where I can spot that lower undercut that I want to step to, right? And instead of inverting or stepping too prematurely and face smacking, if I've got good control in 1 foot, I can load that 1 foot. Everybody see that? And right? Nice, controlled, easy foot transition down to the next step. And then if I'm ready to step down, then I'm going to play out a little bit more rope. I'm going to load that right foot, and I'm going to step down with my left foot. Right? On the bottom side of this, the wall face disappears. So I have a complete vanishing wall surface, which means I'm going to be freestanding. Some guys will come down to this bottom side and they'll just let their feet come off the wall face. And as soon as they do that, your ropes are going to do this number, right? You're gonna get a big swing underneath the bridge face. So I want to see you guys invert down here. But your inversion is about line control. Unless I want to come out here and put a bunch of edge pro on this lower surface, I need to make sure that when my ropes come into contact with this edge, even though they're fixed lines and they're not moving lines, I don't want a lot of frictional movement on this face, right? The sharper and the more aggressive this surface is, the more requirement you're going to have for edge protection here. So in order to manage that, I'm going to take my steps, I'm going to come down nice and smooth, and I'm going to keep my eyeballs on these ropes the whole time. That's all I'm doing is watching those rope lines, right? From here, this is all about bending my knees and then extending my knees, okay? If you have a lot of slop in your upper chest kit and your upper connections, as you do this, you're going to get more and more unwanted travel away from your descent control device. So make sure that you cinch everything up if you're a little too loose before you make this move. I'm going to loosen up here, and as I deploy, everybody see how I'm just bending my knees? I'm bending my knees, I'm watching those lines, and I'm letting those lines come into contact with control right on that edge. Everybody see that? Once they're in contact with that edge, I'm now extending my legs. Everybody good? And then in a very controlled fashion, I just let my legs drift right back underneath me. So manage your lines, control your lines, watch your steps, and just be good managers of your movement the whole time you're working through your edge transitions. Any questions? Okay, see you guys on the bottom.